Alright guys, and welcome back to the tier list retrospective series, and as we are continuing on, we are hitting up none other than Ascension today. Ascension is a map I have always had a very strange relationship with, as even when I was younger, I didn't touch it. I literally played it once, and I did not touch the map again until late last year. So we're going to go through and we're going to see if I was right to have avoided it all these years or if I was tragically wrong and missing out on a great experience. Before we continue, I have the obligatory reminders to get through. If you didn't watch the last part of the series on 5, I would really recommend checking it out after this video or right now even if you want to and see what I thought about that map. If you do go on to enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like and a subscription, as that lets me know you enjoyed it and it will help me produce more content. If you agree or disagree with anything I have to say in this video, let me know in the comments below, as it's great to get a dialogue going. And now, let's get straight into Ascension. We will yet again start with the positives of the map. Overall, broadly, I feel like this map restarts the forward momentum of innovation that was seen throughout the entirety of the World at War lifespan. While 5 was a really good map, and Kino was less so in my opinion, I think it's pretty safe to say that neither of these maps made significant strides in the main gameplay loop, with any gameplay improvements or formula shakeups aside from basic engine improvements. Ascension does not progress as much as the old World at War maps did when they were coming out, as it isn't a big leap in innovation like was seen in that game, but we are seeing small steps forward and minor tweaks that improve the overall World at War format. The main area that this is seen is in the creation of 2 brand new amazing perks that are top tier and mainstays in my loadout whenever they are present on a map. The first of these perks I would like to mention, as it is personally my favourite perk ever added of all time, and that is Stamina Up. I absolutely love Stamina Up, and it genuinely changed how I played the game. The game just feels so slow when I don't have Stamina Up active in one of my perk slots now. I really find the game to be unplayable without Stamina Up, and that's all zombies games. The perk allows you to sprint for double the amount of time that you would have been able to without it, and secondly provides you with a minor speed boost. The perk machine and icon are also really cool, and I'm just a massive fan of everything this perk does. The second of these perks that I want to talk about is one that I like slightly less, but it's still really useful. This perk negates player inflicted damage and fall damage and causes a massive explosion when you dolphin dive. This is of course PhD Flopper. The explosion is actually much more useful than I ever thought it was. It can one-shot zombies up to around 20, which is longer than I thought. I honestly only thought it was useful up until around 7. I'm happy to be mistaken. It's not top tier for the flop, but that is just useful to know. This perk also allows players to use explosive weapons without taking any damage, and because of how powerful explosive weapons like the ray gun and Mustang and Sally are, many players see this as a top tier perk, myself included. Ascension is the map that introduced these perks, one of which is a mainstay appearing in every single zombies game after Black Ops 1, even Vanguard, which removed a bunch of perks. It was actually one of the only perks to stay in that game aside from Juggernog and Speed Cola. I have to give this as a point to Ascension for adding and creating these fantastic perks. The next point I would like to discuss is the way the map deals with Pack-a-Punch. This map basically redoes the Doris Pack-a-Punch system, but in my opinion it actually does it slightly better. I have a few reasons for thinking this. One is the lunar landers, which in my opinion are better than the teleporters. Not only do they thematically suit the map so well, which is something that if you've been following along you know I really appreciate, it also ties into the second aspect, which is the map size. This is the first map that I would consider large, even though in reality it's probably somewhere in the middle. It's a middle-sized map. It's not huge, but it's large enough. This map's size makes the use of fast travel actually useful, whereas on Doris, while I love that map and the teleporters are cool, I find I absolutely never use them past setting up Pack-a-Punch because the map's just not big enough to warrant a fast travel unless you're using it as a get out of jail free card. When you finally power up the machines, you can launch the rocket, which is such a cool animation, and the rocket launch is an animated Pack-a-Punch introduction. I just think it's really cool. It's such a step up from Kino, 5, and Doris. It's a really cool cinematic moment in the map, made better by the fact that you can blow up the rocket by using an explosive weapon, which is a really cool kind of dynamic aspect to the map that I know it's minor, it doesn't really do anything, but it's just these little touches really do improve maps in my opinion. So overall I really enjoy the Pack-a-Punch system on this map, despite the fact that it's still a very simple setup with very minor improvements on the Doris format. I think it is worth mentioning that I did enjoy the Pack-a-Punch setup on this map. Continuing on with the theme of this map being a Doris Deluxe, it finally expands on the small Easter egg that was found in Doris by actually expanding it into the first fully fledged large Easter egg. This was such a huge change for zombies, and it genuinely, in my opinion, changed the mode for the better. Easter eggs are like one of the main reasons I personally play zombies, be it side Easter eggs or big massive Easter eggs and main quests or side quests, weapon quests, pack punch quests. They're the reasons I play zombies, and this map is where all of that begins. While the reward for this Easter egg is 100% questionable, and I do think it is lackluster, I do have to say the positives that this does for the mode is just unspeakably more important than the minor reward that you get for this Easter egg. In terms of the quest itself, I do dislike that it's not soloable, and as I am looking at these maps in the modern context, I do have to take the points off it for that, but the benefits outweigh the negatives. Essentially, because the map is not soloable, and I am looking at these in the modern context compared to when they did release, and all the quests are soloable these days, I do have to take points off for that, and I will discuss this a bit more later on. For the first attempt at a main Easter egg, I have to say it's impressive how well of an Easter egg this ended up being. While it does contain a lot of box art look, which I do not like in Easter eggs, this will be discussed in a much later video. Actually, not much later, in a later video. I do have to say the actual steps are quite fun and obscure, just like all of these old Easter eggs. Overall, I'm so happy about this inclusion, and it's just another example of the innovation returning on this map. Now, moving on to aspects that I don't necessarily consider negatives, but I do consider middle of the road. And by middle of the road, I consider these not to be dislikes, but I don't consider them to be likes either. But somewhere in the middle that I feel like I should mention. And the first thing I'd like to bring up is the monkeys, which are the replacement of the dogs in this map. I know that the typical zombies players do not like the monkeys on this map. Me personally, I used to hate these enemies so much. Now though, I actually do not mind them at all. Not only are they incredibly easy to deal with, if you're good enough and fast enough, you get a free perk as well, which is just a massive reward. And this is actually the first time a free perk would be useful because there's finally more than 4 perks on a map, as I mentioned earlier. I actually think the monkeys are a really good mechanic that can become annoying if you get unlucky or as the rounds progress. But overall, I think the monkeys are quite fine, and I think a lot of people, myself included, really overreacted when they were added originally. Another point I would like to discuss here is the reuse of the Thunder Gun. The reason I have not put this straight up with the negatives is because I actually believe the Thunder Gun makes more sense on this map than it does Kino. But it is a reuse of a gun, so I can't give it a positive either. So I'm not taking it into account, but I do want to mention that it does fit better here than it does fit on Kino the Totem. The gun does fit the vibes of this map really well, and it helps make an easy map even easier. Now, moving on to the negatives, I don't actually have any major negatives that I want to bring up for this map, but I do have 2 little nitpicks that I think I will bring up here, just before my closing thoughts. The first one is the color scheme. This map is just grey and light brown. That is it. There's really no difference in colors at all. There is absolutely no variation, and I just dislike this compared to maps with lots of color. This is the most egregious offender of this so far, which is why I've decided to mention it here. The other maps had color skies or fire or something, even an area that would spice it up. Ascension has none of this, and I just don't like that. I know it's minor, but I did feel like it was important to mention it. The second thing I would like to mention is the fact that the Easter egg is not soloable again. This is just a bother, to be honest, as you want to enjoy the cool map and the main quest, but unfortunately you need to get 4 players, which can be hard to do at this stage as the game is so old. I know I already went through the main factors, but I did have to say that I was including this as a negative, so it does take some points off, and unfortunately this is what knocks it down a tier. Okay, so that is everything I have to say on Ascension, one of my favourite classic zombies maps, if not my favourite. There is a close tie between this and a different map that I'm going to be discussing later. It's funny, I hated Ascension for years, but upon recently playing Black Ops 1 again and finally having to give Ascension a chance for my channel, I've actually ended up loving it. I think it's a great map. I'm so happy that I was forced to give this map a second chance. If I'm playing a survival map with no side quests or anything just past surviving, this is the map I'm going to play. I love Ascension just for that aspect alone, which is why I'm going to be placing Ascension at the top of A tier. If the Easter egg was soloable, it would be easily an S, but unfortunately, we're going to have to place it in A tier for now. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and a subscription. If you agreed or disagreed, let me know in the comments below. Next up, we have Call the Dead. I believe a map that I have only recently started coming to terms with, as of the video I made just a few days ago on Call the Dead. So stick around if you want to hear my opinions on that. It's going to be different, that's for sure.